Your eyes, it's a day's work to look into them. Your eyes, it's a day's work.
Here comes your face, Carol just told me. Here comes your face. Hi, welcome. I know, I'm ready. Are you ready for this face, this bald head, this scruffy, kind of sideburny? This is what we call, Carol, are you ready? And you know what? My sister-in-law, who I hadn't seen for a while, she immediately called me out. She's like, oh, were you compensating? Oh, it was great. It was great. She wasn't mean at all. It was wonderful. Can we show this, Carol? This is the album that I just played. Where is it? This is the album that I just played, Laurie Anderson's Big Science from 1982. Come on. She's awesome. She's awesome. All right. And put that back up, Carol. I am reading a book right now that is blowing my mind. This won the Pulitzer back in 2002. I cannot believe I waited this long. It's about a hermaphrodite immigrant granddaughter of Greeks who came to America in the early 20th century to Detroit. And it is simultaneously a history of Detroit, a history of America, a look back at Greek and Turkish atrocities in the early 20th century. And you see how far I am in it, Carol? Can you see that? That's a little over halfway. And it's just started to be the story of a suburban young American girl/boy who was born and everybody thought she was a girl and who later lives out life as a man. It's just a sprawling, fascinating book, and it's one of the best novels I've read in a long time. It includes stuff about the Nation of Islam in Detroit. It got started in Detroit. Henry Ford, Prohibition, bootleg. It's like a sprawling history of the 20th century. Highly recommend this book if you're looking for a fun, interesting, beautifully written novel. It won the Pulitzer for a reason. Pulitzer's no guarantee, Carol. Henry Kissinger won the Pulitzer Peace Prize. That's all I gotta say, right? That's all I gotta say. Okay, we gotta talk about Bitcoin today. We gotta talk about the Duke coal ash spill. And Duke's doing this weird thing where they're trying to cut back the subsidies for people who have solar panels on their house, putting energy back into the system. You see, renewable energy cuts into companies like Duke's profits. And so companies that make a profit off of energy don't like it when off of centralized energy, like nuclear power plants, these huge, enormous, expensive, centralized, powerful things. This is what gets me about libertarians who don't jump on renewables, like jump on them and say, damn it, we should have 20 years worth of subsidies for renewables the same way we've had 50 years worth of renewables, 100 years worth of subsidies for non-renewables like coal, nuclear, and all that other stuff. Natural gas, they've all got subsidies, had subsidies for decades, if not centuries, in the case of coal. And yet when you try to get a little bit of a subsidy for solar or wind, the John Lockes of the world, or the John Hoods of the world at the John Locke Foundation freak out. Oh, how dare you say if it can't compete in the free market? It's like, it ain't a free market. It hasn't been a free market for years. So I wish libertarians who talk about decentralized power and are quick to attack centralized power when it comes to government, but completely oblivious too often to the dangers of centralized power when it's in private hands. I'm sorry, that's the way I see it. That's really the way, it's like, really? You don't see that as much of a threat as centralized government power, centralized corporate power? Okay, whatever. I just don't get it. But to me, jumping on, only supporting the free market, or supporting the free market so that it only helps the big centralized power units like Duke Energy, that have been receiving government subsidies for decades at the expense of a teeny little subsidy for solar or wind these days. And same thing with nuclear. Nuclear wouldn't exist if you and I, with our tax dollars, didn't subsidize the insurance costs for nuclear power plants. That's just a fact. Nobody likes to admit it in the nuclear power industry, but it's a fact. And they still don't know, Carol, what to do with the waste. Right, that's my main thing. I can handle everything else, but they still don't know what to do with the nuclear waste. Same thing with the coal ash. You didn't know about coal ash until recently. 2008, that Tennessee spill. We don't hear about it. It's kept quiet. And now that we've got this big coal ash problem, here's Pat McCrory. Oh, suddenly we've got to move like all these coal ash ponds, right? Oh, yeah, these are terrible. We can't have these near water, right? But 6 months ago, his Department of Environment and Natural Resources cut this really, Carol, can we put up number 4 or 5? Yeah, 4. He's faking left now. Oh, we better move these coal ash ponds, right? But 6 months ago, or a few months ago, last year, his Department of Environment and Natural Resources cut this really scummy deal with Duke Power, or Duke Energy. And they only cut the settlement. They only made a settlement after environmentalists sued the Department of Environment, Pat McCrory's Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Environmental groups sued and said, if you're not going to regulate this crap, we're going to sue you to get you to regulate it. And the Department of Environment and Natural Resources all of a sudden goes, oh, we better come to some kind of settlement with Duke. And they settled out of court after environmentalists sued. And the settlement allowed Duke to keep doing whatever they wanted, pretty much. It was a slap on the wrist. You know how these settlements are. Oh, $10,000, which sounds big to you and me, but to Duke, that's a fart in the wind, $10,000, $1 million. 2 farts, maybe. But now, after Pat McCrory's administration offered this crappy settlement to stop the lawsuit from the environmentalist that was trying to get Pat McCrory to do something. Now that we've got this big spill with national attention, Pat McCrory's showing up on CNN talking like an environmentalist and saying, oh, we better move those ash ponds away from water, right? I love this that appeared in the NNO recently. I hope in most cases we can move the pond so that it isn't near water, McCrory said. This is from the NNO. I'm not an engineer or a scientist. I love that know-nothingness, right, Carol? That know-nothingism. Oh, well, I ain't one of them fancy schmancy engineers or scientists who actually give a crap about this or know anything about this. But that would hopefully be the best option. Hopefully the best option. I hope in most cases, we can move Duke's, his former employer, right? Remember, Pat McCrory used to work for Duke Energy when it was Duke Power. I swear to God, this is a direct quote, I hope in most cases we can move the pond, said Pat McCrory, so it isn't near water, drinking water. I hope. What do you think Pat McCrory's doing right there? Yeah, our Pope doesn't give a crap about drinking water. You're drinking water. He'll always have enough money to get good drinking water. Pat McCrory now suddenly, oh, we better move those ash ponds. This is the NNO headline writer. Move those ash ponds. When you look at the actual quote, at what Pat McCrory is actually saying, I hope in most cases we can move the ash ponds so that they're not quite so close to poor people and ordinary people's drinking water. That's what he's really saying. He's faking left, monkeys. He's faking left. Pat McCrory's faking left on this, and he's getting all, he's basking in the glow of the national attention this is bringing him, hoping it helps at the governor's conference and going on CNN and talking like an environmentalist for a minute or two. Do not be fooled. But here's the problem, Carol. Are you ready? Can we put up, I don't know, what does number 6 say? No, that's Bitcoin. Here's the problem. And this was in the NNO on Sunday. Can we show this one, Carol? I like this headline a lot. This is an article that was in Sunday's News and Observer by John Morawski. And I've met him a couple of times. He occasionally comes into our stories. Seems like a really nice guy, but that's not, my personal feelings aren't getting into this because you know me. You know me. I'm critical of journalists. I used to be a journalist myself. I've got a piece in The Independent this week about the North Carolina Symphony's new season. I love doing arts criticism, Carol. I love doing arts criticism, but I think it's a fair-minded piece. The Symphony, the North Carolina Symphony, is doing some really neat stuff next year. They're commissioning new works by young living composers, Carol. Did I hear you gasp? Carol's like, what? I'm like, no, really. The North Carolina Symphony is commissioning not just one, but two works by young, and that's by classical music standards, living composers. And I wrote about it in this week's Independent. So pick up an Independent, and I'll tweet about it, although I hate self-promotion. But it's a good article about the chances that the NC Symphony is taking. Because, you know, all the money, Carol just wants Mozart and Beethoven. Even Mahler, one of my sources said, is too much for them. And Mahler was writing in the early 1900s, some of the best work of the 20th century. Mahler, right? Anyway, all right, long story short, I used to be a journalist, and I still kind of am now. And John Morawski, the guy that wrote this piece in the NNO on Sunday, is one of the best journalists that the NNO has right now. I don't always agree with his take, Carol, because he's fair, and I want him to be left-wing. But I'm sure the right-wingers feel the same way. But it's a really good article, and here's the problem. When the Democrats were in control of the North Carolina House and Senate, environmentalists were freaking out at how little the Democrats were doing to control the coal ash problem. Now, Carol, this is even true at the national level. Coal ash it's a toxic waste. It's a hazardous waste. But it is exempt from any hazardous waste regulation. Why? Well, because the coal industry has a lot of money, and Democrats and Republicans both like that coal industry money. They don't want to seen to be an enemy of coal. They don't want to be seen as an enemy of coal. So we see Kay Hagan on yesterday, February 24th, at the News and Observer's business blog, I think it was. Hagan wants more oversight of coal ash waste. Hey, welcome to the party, Kay. A little late. Kay Hagan says we've really woken up to the disastrous problem that has just recently taken place here. No, it took place in 2008 in Tennessee. And it was an ongoing problem all around the country where coal is mined. And coal is not just mined, but burned, right? You have the ash, the leftover ash. Where coal is a key power source, coal ash has been a problem. We haven't just recently woken up to this, unless you've been ignoring what the environmentalists in your own damn party, Kay Hagan, have been saying for years. The end of the article says, this is the last sentence in the end of the article. Asked whether the material, coal ash, should be treated as hazardous waste, Hagan said she would need to review the scientific literature before taking a position, Carol. It's a hazardous waste. They're telling people don't eat the fish in the areas of the Dan River where Duke Energy's coal ash has piled up. It is a hazardous waste and is not treated by the feds as a hazardous waste because of politics. And Kay Hagan is like, well, the one thing we can do to help stop coal ash from being dumped and stored unsafely and then dumped in our rivers like happened in Tennessee in 2008, like happened here, like is happening in smaller doses, we find out now as we dig into the news. Smaller cases all around the state of North Carolina where Duke has been forced to pay for water for families where wells are close to their coal ash ponds. We're now finding out this is an ongoing problem. What would help solve this problem? Treating coal ash as hazardous waste. Duke is even questioning whether they should line their ponds, Carol. These are unlined ponds where the coal ash seeps in. Why? Because the feds don't treat coal ash as a hazardous waste. Coal ash, the detritus, the garbage, the dreck, as my grandmother used to say, that comes from burning coal. This is not even, we're not even talking about the crap that goes up into the atmosphere and causes global warming. We're talking about the leftover ash that they don't know what to store, and Duke for years couldn't even be bothered to line the ponds so that the coal ash stuff didn't go into the groundwater. There are sites all across the state of North Carolina, small ones, tiny ones, 1 or 2 families here and there, which we haven't heard about because they didn't make national news until this is how monkeys are, Carol, right? We need a big event. Oh, this is a problem. And now Kay Hagan suddenly wants more oversight of coal ash. Oh, well, we've just woken up to this. No, we haven't. Environmentalists who should have an ear with somebody in Kay Hagan's office, should have had a ear, she's been there for 6 years now, 5 years, should have had an ear in Kay Hagan's office, she should have been listening to them. Now suddenly there's a big spill that makes the national news and Kay Hagan wakes up. Look, Kay Hagan's the best choice we got. Anybody that you think Tom Tillis is going to be any better on coal ash than Kay Hagan? Yeah, right. Pat McCrory's mouthing the right words right now, but he's not going to do anything. I hope that maybe most of the ponds can be moved away from our drinking water. That's what he said. I hope that maybe most. How many qualifiers do you need, Carol, in a sentence before you're off the hook? Pat McCrory, right? It's hilarious. Pat McCrory's faking left. Oh yeah, go to my Twitter page for links. But the Sunday News and Observer article, doesn't let Democrats off the hook. This was a problem that goes back farther. In the Jim Black era, Duke Energy, or Duke Power at that point was what it was called, could do whatever they wanted to. That doesn't make it right when it's happening on McCrory and Art Pope's watch. The one thing we need to do is pass a federal law requiring coal ash to be treated as a hazardous waste. Duke couldn't just store it in big ponds without liners now. North Carolina, if the feds don't do it, North Carolina should have stricter standards and say, Duke, you need to line all those ponds. But what did Pat McCrory and the Republicans do this year? Last year, they passed a bill saying that no environmental standards, I think I've got this right, I might have it wrong, feel free to correct me. Carol, put up my email address. Feel free to tweet at me or correct me if I've got this wrong, but my understanding is that in the first Republican legislative session under Pat McCrory, who signed it into law, North Carolina cannot make environmental laws tougher than the federal law. So this is where people like Kay Hagan should step in and advocate for treating coal ash as the hazardous waste it is and forcing Duke to do the things that it couldn't be bothered to do before. Duke Energy was like, oh, wait, we need to put a liner in the bottom of those ponds so the coal ash isn't treated as a federal hazardous waste, so we don't have to, so we're not gonna. There's no way on earth you can paint Duke Energy as being the good guys here. There's no way on earth they didn't do anything other than put profits ahead of your drinking water safety. There's no way on earth you can paint that as any other way, in any other color. All right. Carol, it's First Friday this Friday. I have many regrets in life. I have many regrets in life, Carol. Does that surprise you? I have many regrets in life. One is that I didn't start Lexapro a little earlier. My doctor, I finally gave in. I have never liked doing the meds thing. Although, I'll drink myself, into some kind of like medical stupor. But I finally started doing some anti-anxiety, antidepressant kind of stuff. And I think it's helping, Carol. I think it's helping. And see how honest I am? I don't give a crap that my insurance company knows. Who else do I care about, right? If my insurance company surely knows. Carol, I had a new insurance card, and I went to the Rite Aid to buy my new prescriptions for my allergy meds because I have seasonal allergies. Man, I'm telling you, if you have seasonal asthma and you're not using Singulair, well, it works for me. Different monkeys, different drugs, right, Carol? God, that's certainly true of things like antidepressants. Some people respond well to some people respond well to others, and don't respond well to the first ones. And psychiatrists and doctors have no clue why. They don't know why one person responds well to one antidepressant and not another, why an antidepressant works for 6 months and then stops, that kind of stuff. I'm trying to read up as I'm getting on this stuff, but they really don't know, and it's really a different monkeys, different drugs. But for me, the allergic seasonal allergies and hay fever come with asthma at night during those 2 months of March and April. And Singulair really works for me. I start taking it preemptively a couple weeks before the flowers really hit, and it really works to prevent the asthma from getting really bad. So, and then the Flonase nasal spray really works for my allergies. Anyway, anyone out there suffering from allergies who thinks that you can't afford, major, medicine or can't go to the doctor, just remember the word Flonase for the nasal spray. Nasal Crom is another name for it, and Singulair if you get asthma. Preemptively start taking the Singulair, and it really works for me. Anyway, long story short, all you allergy sufferers in the spring know exactly what I'm talking about, and it can be deadly.
So you went to the pharmacy?
I went to the pharmacy. I changed my card, my insurance card. I had a new one. Went to the insurance, gave them the new card, and then I go there, and they forgot to update. They had to rebuild my insurance in their system. So I saw what my medicines would cost without health insurance. And I had a lot of them, right? The Lexapro, and it's a generic, but still, and the allergy meds. Carol, it was hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And I was like, no, we're not doing this. So it's really, this is one of those things where they're gonna come after Kay Hagan for Obamacare over and over and over again this year. And there's some serious problems with Obamacare, right? Really, the point is there shouldn't be any insurance companies when it comes to health insurance. It should all just be government run, and everybody would be it would be a lot easier. You wouldn't even have to look at your wallet when you went to the doctor. How is that not easier for the average citizen? Anyway, long story short, they're gonna come after Kay Hagan over and over and over again this year on Obamacare. And there are definitely some problems with it, but you've got to fight back. You've got to say the reality that was pre-Obamacare was worse. No matter what the negatives are for Obamacare, when you look at the positives, the balance, Obamacare wins. Obamacare wins. That's just a fact. So watch out for that. Insurance companies are part of the problem. They really are. With healthcare, they really are. The costs are going out of control, and a big part of that is the profit taking from the insurance companies. All right, end of that. So First Friday is this Friday. And, regrets in life, Carol. That's what you should have sent me back to. One of my biggest regrets of the last month is that I didn't film the video exhibit at Flanders Gallery last month. It probably wouldn't have shown up well on camera, but it was fantastic. Flanders Gallery on Martin Street, West Martin Street, just at the corner of Martin and what is that? West? I think it's West. Flanders Gallery was amazing last month, and I highly recommend you go there. Art Space has been good lately. There's the 2 or 3 downstairs galleries, 3 downstairs galleries, and then an upstairs gallery. Art Space has been really strong. Lump has been good over the last couple of months. It's been worth walking down. I'm just saying, First Friday is really good. Okay, can we put up number, what are we talking about here? The Colony, Eating Raoul, is that up there? Number 7, 8, 9? 7. Well, you missed it tonight because it started at 8. Eating Raoul was playing at the Colony, but next Tuesday, they do these cult movie nights sometimes. This is one that came out in 2013. It's a comedy called Knights of Badassdom. It looks really silly and kind of fun, and we have a pair of tickets to give away. First person to tweet at me, gets do it, tweet, or you can send me an email or whatever if you want. Gets the free tickets. But next Tuesday at 7:30 at the Colony, Knights of Badassdom with Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones, right? Yeah, is playing. All right, what else should I talk about, Carol? Oh, we got 3.5 minutes? Bitcoin. That's long enough. You put up the credits, I started getting scared. I got 3.5 minutes. All right. Okay, Bitcoin. There's a website called Buttcoin. I think it's .com. It might be .org. Stop laughing, Carol. But it's a very skeptical site about the whole Bitcoin e-currency thing, right? Me personally, come on. Electronic currency is gonna happen. And this is an attempt, Bitcoin, and there are other coin attempts. There's Dogecoin, or Dogecoin, I guess is what people call it. There are other coins that are apparently, that are trying to be seen as more stable than Bitcoin. But Bitcoin, was the first and the biggest, out there. But electronic currency is going to happen. Bitcoin is an attempt to do it without the government backing it. I like that, Carol. Who wouldn't like that? A currency for you and me that doesn't require government intervention. The problem is that, and some people are saying that this one of the Bitcoin exchanges just failed, Mt. Gox. You know what that stands for, Carol? Magic the Gathering Online Exchange. It started off as a Magic the Gathering card, that little card game, exchange, Mt. Gox. Anyway, here's the point. And I linked to these articles on my Twitter page. Buttcoin has some really good coverage of this. Mt. Gox, the Bitcoin exchange that failed this past week, had serious problems that the other exchanges and depositories don't have. They were hacked because they were doing an authentication process that the other Bitcoin exchanges had given up a long time ago and had solidified and made more secure a long time ago, years ago in some cases. So the Bitcoin exchange that failed last week was being stupid. That's what you need to know. Anyway, go to my Twitter page or buttcoin.com or org. We'll see you next week.